Let's talk reg pressure in a moment. In terms of price action, I wonder if the things we were just talking about make sense to you, given the fact that information technology, life sciences are things that get employed in a global pandemic.
I mean, Carl, it's really obvious how dependent we are culturally and economically on information technology today. And if you combine that with the Federal Reserve's pumping a ton of liquidity into the markets, it makes total sense to me to see stocks where they are today. You know, there's a lot of liquidity. And when you look at whether it's Apple or Google or Amazon, these are companies that are exceptionally well positioned relative to the rest of the economy. The challenge for investors now, and I think frankly for policymakers, is that the unknowns relative to the pandemic are huge. And just saying you're going to reopen the economy does not mean people are going to show up, does not mean people are going to spend money, does not mean people are going to be fully employed. And to me, that level of uncertainty requires that all of us look, whether we're looking at tech or any other sector, and just ask the question, what is the risk reward from here? I do not think a V-shaped recovery is the most likely thing in the economy. I think what the economists, with their current cover story about a 90% level for the recovery, I mean, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it seems to me that that kind of thing has to go into your thinking right now.
So you think the price level might be justified, but it's not investable yet?
Well, I mean, it's obviously been investable, right, Carl? I mean, I look at this and I just say, to me, ask yourself whether there has ever been a time in your professional life when there was more uncertainty about the economy than there is today. I certainly can't name one. And, I've been doing this since 1982, and I look at the current level of uncertainty and say, look, what do we know? We know that we are going to try to reopen states, but what else do we know? We know that 2 months of everybody staying in quarantine did not actually stop the disease from spreading. It merely slowed the rate of growth to 30,000 a day and, a few thousand dead per day. And I look at that and I go, wow, by the end of the year, you're going to be at numbers that are somewhere between total fatalities of World War I and total fatalities of World War II. And you're going to do that in 1 year. And it just seems to me that if that's where we are at the end of the year, the market's going to have some issues. It's just not going to, I just don't think people are going to absorb that like it's normal.
Roger, something that strikes me looking at what's happening in the market, and you were talking, I think, a bit about risk just now, is that look at corporate bonds, right? Like normally you think of those as being safety, but with the amount of debt that so many companies that we're used to thinking of as pillars of the economy are taking on, and questions about their survival, whether you're talking about travel, whether you're talking about retail, maybe not. Then dividend-paying stocks, that's supposed to be where investors rush to when the market's uncertain. Well, Disney suspending a dividend for half the year. I mean, so where do you go? Do you go to those high valuation tech stocks like Apple and Microsoft that people were saying, hey, boy, those valuations are, well, they're probably going to pay their dividends because they're still making money, right?
And to me, John, it depends on your time horizon, right? At my age, in my situation, I want to have a combination of things like T-bills and things like tech stocks, because I understand tech. I'm comfortable with the risk there. It's a sector that's a relative beneficiary of what's going on. But most of my money, I just want to stay on the sidelines because I think there will be a better entry point than today. And, I look at this, I say each person has to make their own judgment. What I would simply observe is that when we come through the end of the year, I don't think we're still done with the pandemic at that point. That all the evidence is that it takes multiple years to develop a vaccine, and that while we're going to throw more money at it than any vaccine in history, I don't know that you can change biology. I don't know that you can change physics well enough to have that come, in less than a couple of years. And, historically, it's taken a lot longer than that. And so we shouldn't be surprised if the coronavirus is part of our economic and social landscape for many years to come. And in that scenario, it just seems to me that the economy is going to have to restructure, that the people who work in meat packing companies, who do delivery, work in grocery stores, they're going to have enormous amounts of leverage in negotiating how much they get paid and the working conditions they operate under. And, if they all get sick and a whole bunch of them die, you're going to have a really hard time replacing those people unless you pay a lot better and have better working conditions. So it just feels to me like there's going to be big changes coming out of this. And in the tech sector, that represents a huge opportunity, but probably not for the kind of products that were really successful before.